Welcome back to the Golden Trail World Series, where you're joining us in Asia for the first 2 races of the season. The Golden Trail Series consists of 8 races and a final, each testing the world's best trail runners across different terrains, distances, elevation, and conditions to crown an overall champion. Now in its 7th year, the series has expanded to include 2 Asian races. Kobe is known for its steep technical descents, and the Four Sisters Mountain Trail climbs to over 4,000 metres. The season then heads to Europe for Zagama Ascori in the Basque region of Spain, known for its exposed peak and crazy crowds. The Marathon de Mont Blanc with its long, fast start and iconic finish. Sierra Zanao, where road runners and trail runners can go head to head. And another new addition, the Tatra Sky Marathon in Poland, offering up some steep climbs. We then head to California for the Headlands 27K, offering views of San Francisco Bay, and Mammoth 26K with a super sharp climb and long fast ascents, before the grand final, Ascona Locarno in Switzerland. But first, Kobe Trail.
Being my first time in Japan, so far I love it. The people are awesome, the town is really cool.
I can eat rice every day, I don't care.
Yes, for me, reality is another world.
I'm happy to see global elite athletes come to my home country.
It's always nerve-wracking seeing something that steep.
Almost dangerous, like they are really technical, you can die.
It's really quite intense. It's not road running by any means.
We need to be careful to finish all of us together without any injury.
The Kobe Trail is comprised of 4 unique loops, unusually starting with a downhill and finishing with an up. Each loop returning to the peak to pass through the aid station with cheering local fans. There's a short loop to begin, before Loop 2 provides the most technically challenging climbs of the entire series. Loop 3 is the longest loop at just over 6 kilometers, before the final loop, a brutal 600 meters of climbing in just over 5 kilometers, amounting to 2,100 meters of ascent in only 21k. Our runners to look out for are Maud Mathis from Switzerland and Essex, the 2020 and 21 series champion. She's a powerful climber, but may struggle with the downhills. Morocco's El Hussein El Azoui, Team N Normal. The Dolomites champion has pace and technique and starts as favourite here. Former world champion Ali McLaughlin from the USA, representing Hoka. She could lead out this race with her downhill skill and strong uphill speed. Switzerland's Joey Hadorn, Team Salomon. His orienteering skills are designed for this course, but does he have the top speed? Sara Alonso from Spain and Essex, returning from injury, but not afraid to attack throughout a race. Poland's Bart Prodziewski, Salomon, 2020 series final winner. He'll relish these downhills if he can stay in touch with the lead group. The women were first to start, and the 800 metres of downhill road seduced them into a furious pace, which would be difficult to maintain.
Before the race, I was nervous because it's a comeback after long months without competition.
The single track that followed rewarded those brave enough to lead by making overtaking difficult down the technical terrain. Ali McLaughlin leading out Joyce Najuru and a chasing pack.
I think I went out too hard, but it was fun until it wasn't.
Allez, allez, Joy! Good
Joyce overtook on the climb, demonstrating that her trail skills were sharper than her experience suggested, closely followed by Ali and Maud Mathis, with the group including Sarah Alonso, Therese Leboeuf and Julia Font not far behind.
I didn't start very fast and I just focused on my pace.
The men started with the same intensity, seeing several downhill specialists taking to the front behind Anders Kriavik, setting a pace he would later regret.
First downhill, it was very crazy. I was feeling like I might pass the people who was running, then I decided to go direct to the tree.
The first climb saw the pack reshuffled, with Swiss orienteer Joey Hedorn slicing through the field, returning to the top in first with El Hussein and Patrick all within sight.
I felt like when I started running the uphill that the guys in front of me weren't pushing that much in the uphill, so I went for my pace and then suddenly was in the lead.
Local favourite Roy Urida's strategy was to hold back on the first loop, hoping to attack the latter downhills. During the second lap, Joyce slightly increased her lead, with Ali and Maud still chasing, Maud looking the more relaxed of the three.
I think I well managed my race because I was not tired.
Sarah, Julia and Therese were working together as a chasing group, with a small gap over the remaining top 10. On the second lap, Joey and El Hussein were locked together at the front.
El Hussein was always quite close behind me, maybe some 10-20 meters, and I always felt like he's playing with me, he's giving me some room to breathe.
Patrick was caught on the descent by a rampaging Bart Prodziewski before reclaiming his third place on the second climb to the halfway point.
Even if they will pass me on downhill, I have to make sure that I close the gap in the uphill.
Fifth through 10, all trading places. The speed of the first half of the race started to catch up with Joyce and Ali, and the third climb saw a composed Maud picking them both off to emerge at the peak in first place.
I didn't attack, I just saw I was faster than them in the uphill.
Ali and Joyce both looked tired but had a 4-minute lead over the chasing group of three. Marlenosa tagging in for a tired Julia Font.
I was all the time 4, 5, 6 position, and I see that in not a lot of seconds I was taking Malen.
Joey was faring better than El Hussein in the heat, but it was Patrick who started making moves, overtaking them both on the climb to lead into the final lap. Bart now eyeing up third place if he could somehow keep cool. On lap 4, the front of the men's were catching up with the front of the women's, requiring everyone to stay focused.
And then I passed them toward the end of the hill.
He was way too fast for me in this uphill, moving on a different level there. Yeah, it's never over until the finish line.
And then the down of the fourth, the ankle got bad. They just kept passing me and it just got more depressing. It is what it is. I do not feel good any shape or form.
I knew it was possible to win if I kept this tempo until the end.
Maud had built a 6-minute lead, but Sarah Alonso deployed brute force to drop her group and power past both Ali and Joyce to finish in second place, only 4 seconds ahead of Therese Leboeuf in third.
And finally I win my first sprint ever.
Joyce holding on for fourth, with Marlin claiming 5th despite struggling with cramp throughout. Meanwhile, Joey wrestled back his lead on the final descent, but Patrick attacked straight back on the climb to claim his first victory of the season.
I'm very happy to win the first golden trail in Japan.
Behind Joey, El Hussein was fading fast, Bart getting him in his sights, but unable to bridge the gap to finish 3rd and 4th, a hard-fought podium place. Italy's Daniel Pattis paced his race to perfection, going from 17th on Loop 2 to finish off our top 5. Race 1 done, it's time for our athletes to hit the road. Exploring the temples of Kyoto. Before heading to China and its magnificent mountain ranges. Taking in a traditional wedding on the way. And you can't visit Sichuan without saying hello to these guys. After the break is the Four Sisters Mountain Trail, a suffocating race at over 4,000 meters of altitude. Stay tuned. Welcome back to the Golden Trail World Series. We're here in China at the Four Sisters Trail Race.
Welcome to my country. I hope everyone enjoys this trail run race and beautiful mountain views. Here is hometown of panda and delicious China food, hot pot.
It is my second time to be in China. I'm old.
This is my first time in China. I didn't know what to expect. It's been pleasantly surprising, I would say.
It's interesting to see culture and what they are doing here and how lovely they welcome you.
22 kilometers of unexplored trails, climbing to over 4,000 meters.
All the races that I do in altitude have been quite bad, so I don't prepare nothing of altitude.
I'm more confident for the next race. I hope minimum the podium. I did 10 training with a mask in epoxy.
The more extreme the conditions, the better I seem to do, so I don't think anything could scare me.
I think here it's just to listen about the body, how he reacts.
Starting at 3,250 meters, oof! The trail climbs the High Zigo Ridge to our peak at a breathless 4,150 meters. There's a sharp descent before they climb again to Lama Temple and a long drag to our finish. If our athletes overcommit to the 1,000-meter climb or the brutal 800-meter descent, then the altitude will make the more gentle second half feel equally as punishing. Our athletes to watch from the women. Starting as favourite, former series champion Maud Mathis, she won't be fazed by this course. In the men's, there's no clear favourite. Kobe winner Patrick Kipangino will love these climbs, but can he finally master the downhills? World champion Grayson Murphy from the USA and Saucony has the speed, but can she use it effectively on a difficult course? Joey Hedorn, Team Salomon. He could struggle with the altitude, but if he can hold on, his downhill skills could see him lead. Kenya's Joyce Njiru. She's fast up and down, but this will be a long race for her. Elisine Elazouи has everything needed to win here, if he doesn't get drawn into an early battle. The heat of the midday sun saw the women start on a far drier course than expected. And world champion Grayson Murphy leading out with Joyce Njiru happy to sit on her shoulder.
At the beginning, I felt strong. I said to follow the others and do good calculations for today.
As the gradient increased, Joyce took to the front and small gaps started to appear. Maud Mathis and China's Yao Miao emerging behind Grayson.
The first uphill was hard. I felt altitude, but I think everybody felt the altitude.
In the men's, the Kenyan pairing of Patrick Kipenjeno and Philemon Kiriego quickly took advantage of the runnable trail. Ahead of a grouped pack including Elisine Elazoui, Joey Hedorn and Roberto De Lorenzi.
When I was running uphill, I was having my own plan. That's why I decided to push the pace after 1 kilometer.
It's difficult for me, altitude is difficult race. My objective today is run with Patrick together, but it's difficult.
As the 1,000-meter climb intensified, Joyce continued to run, building a strong lead.
I believe I'm good in downhill. So if I have to be on the top first, then nobody will catch me.
The new battle now between Grayson and Maud, who had adopted power hiking.
I just took my pace of my heart rate because I didn't want to push too much.
Maud making the overtake just before the peak. Yao Miao now battling Spain's Niera Irigoyen for fourth ahead of 3 other Spanish runners. Fearing the downhill, Patrick was extending his lead.
If they will going to run downhill very fast, then I have to run uphill very fast.
But as they neared the peak, Philemon had been caught by Joey, El-Hussein and Daniel, with China's Zhang Huahua close behind. After 8 kilometers of climbing, our athletes faced an 800-meter fall in only 2 kilometers.
The last part of uphill, I passed Grayson, but in the downhill, she passed me.
The midweek quagmire had dried considerably, and Joyce was able to defend her lead without taking too many risks.
During the race, I was like, take it easy, Joyce. You have it.
Downhill, I started pushing.
Joey and El-Hussein were trying to claw back time on the descent on Patrick, but he was adapting to the surface, emerging from the base with his healthy lead intact, leaving Joey, El-Hussein and Daniel debating who would now mount an attack against the world champion climber. By the time Joyce had reached Lama Temple, 12 kilometers in, she had a 4-minute lead over a resurgent Maud, who had taken back second place from Grayson, and the hunt was now on.
And then, bottom of the downhill, I passed her again.
Yao Miao and Niera was still locked together, with Marlon Osa now starting to close on them. Patrick's 5-minute lead was looking insurmountable, but El Hussein, Daniel and Joey were all in sight of each other, with Philemon starting to re-find his legs behind them.
In the last uphill, I passed Joey and Patrick left.
The collapse of Kobe wasn't to be repeated here, and despite some more cautious descending, Joyce easily defended her lead to win her first Golden Trail race, smashing the course record in 2:25:27.
Today I think it was a good day for me. Yeah.
Maud Mathis held her second, and Grayson Murphy was third, an impressive debut. Nara finished fourth, her best finish to date, with Marlon Osa rounding off our top 5. It was a double for Kenya today, Patrick Kipangeno also breaking the record in 1:59:13. Elisine Elazoui in second pushed all the way to the line.
Yes, I look after Daniel, I push more and then finish. Thank you, my heart.
Daniel Pattis in third, his first ever podium. Philemon Kiriego overtaking Joey Hadorn and the final descent to take 4th and 5th respectively. In our overall scores, Patrick Kipangeno now has a commanding lead in the men's. El Hussein his closest challenger, and Roy Urida closing out our top 10. And in the women's, it's tight at the top. Maud Mathis and Joyce Nijiru within 22 points of each other, but behind them, 6 Spanish athletes. Wow. That's Asia done, so next to Europe, starting with Zagama Ascori Marathon, Bass Fever on the 26th of May. It has some of the liveliest crowds and longest climbs. It's gonna be the race of the season. Happy trails.